I'm Christopher Nolikin at Belgium Veterinary Hospital.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Benzulo.
Talking today about allergies in pets.
Spaying and neutering your pet.
Pet weight management. And we're going to talk today about pet summer fun and safety. But doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, I got
You're good, a good girl. You got a lot of
I'm a
treats.
good
A lot of
girl.
TD
Get
treats.
up on that table.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
Dr.
missing.
Christopher Nolikin.
And I'm Dr. Lindsay Benzulo. Welcome back to our Facebook Live. This is our second one. So, again, we're still kind of working out a lot of the kinks, but we're glad and
think
happy
we
to
got
be.
the audio, hopefully, but they're going to let me know if they can't hear me as well, because I was the big problem last time.
Last week, nobody could hear Krista.
Right.
I do have a very loud voice.
Well, and I was saying, I
naturally.
used to have a super loud voice. Like, I don't know what has happened to me.
As the years have gone on, it's slowly went down.
So the reason we wanted to just start out this episode with beach safety was I just went to the beach.
Oh, it's lovely. How was the vacation? Was it lovely?
It was lovely. So we were on the Jersey Shore, and as I was sitting there basking,
Relaxing.
in my pale skin, I was just thinking about dogs, because that's what I do. So when I was going to sit on the beach, my kids wanted to be buried, and there was this news article that came up about this guy in Florida who developed hookworms after being buried in the beach. And that got me to thinking about two things mainly. It was, people and dogs interacting on the beach, and then also the safety of dogs.
Well, because hookworm is a parasite that dogs will get. It is a zoonotic parasite, meaning that people can also get it. And
it burrows into the skin, and it makes these nasty little tracks. You can actually see the worms in your skin.
It's called cutaneous larval migrans.
Google it and enjoy the images that you find.
Yeah. So hookworms are nasty. They're really not. Even just the head of the hookworm, it's got these little hooks all in it.
Yeah,
so
if you see a
so we got hookworms from the beach. So you think some dog might have gone to the beach.
Sure.
Gone to the bathroom.
A lot of the beaches around here, and I think in New Jersey as well, don't allow dogs on the beach during certain seasons or times of the day. And like I was thinking that, people who own dogs might view that sometimes negatively because they want to bring their dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know that even as a veterinarian who loves dogs, I don't know that I want dogs on the beach all the time.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it is an area that, sometimes we think of it being fun. You want to bring your whole family, but it probably isn't the best place for our canine friends to be there. I mean, there are dangers not only for us, like the hookworm incident, but there are dangers for the dogs too as well. I mean, even dogs, I had a dog in school that there were beaches where I went to school that you could bring dogs, and he would love to play fetch, and he loved tennis ball. And all the tennis ball, how it has that fuzziness to it, it would get all the sand on it, and so he inherently would eat a lot of sand on the beach. The next morning, after taking him on a very long excursion, when he went to go to the bathroom, I kid you not, it was a sandcastle of poop. There was no fecal material in it. It was just sand. Yeah. And we have seen dogs here with sand impactions.
And, so like the typical dog you bring to the beach is like goofy labs.
Right.
That are already at risk of eating anything and everything that they find, socks and all this junk.
Oh, yeah.
And now you bring them on the beach, and so the beach, like, look at all the people. I mean, I was on the New Jersey Shore. It's busy. It's crowded.
Yep.
But, like, there's a lot of people there throwing garbage. Yeah. They are very good about cleaning up the beach regularly, but there's still garbage. There's stuff they can eat. There's old discarded food. There could be, chicken bones. You could have all that stuff. You could have broken bottles. Not that we see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people don't allow
They're not like
bottles on the beach.
And the cigarette butts and stuff?
Cigarette butts. What about seaweed and clamshells that they can crack their teeth on or even get, swallow those? And then saltwater. You've seen...
I have seen
saltwater.
I've seen saltwater intoxication. So dogs that go and they're really thirsty, and not that the owners are not bringing water. They can bring a bowl of water, but sometimes the dogs just find it really novel to like eat the salt water or drink the salt water. They just love it.
Or the lab is swimming and just like ingest a lot because it's waves and they drink a lot. And that intensive intake of sodium can cause the brain to be damaged. So
it can.
The
that
brain
a little
gets
electrolyte.
dehydrated and they die from that.
And this has to be a lot of saltwater ingestion. Right. So, don't get worried if your dog is out there and takes a couple little
of
lips.
sips is fine.
You're okay. But it's a serious thing where you can see if a dog's been out on the beach all day and really has had unrestricted access to drinking that salt water. I mean, they can be in a world of hurt later on.
And I have seen, I've noticed little message boards and stuff online with people that are like, every time I go to the beach, my dog, drinks so much salt water and gets diarrhea, and then she's kind of comatose for a day.
It's not funny.
So that's
We're laughing
cool.
now, but it's not funny.
Really,
it's not funny.
And it's okay. She gets over it. Well, yeah, one day.
Yeah.
She's gonna die.
Yeah, they can be serious, and even if they just need to be hospitalized, I mean, they really can. That shift in electrolytes can actually, produce some pretty profound effects.
And then when we treat them too, depending upon how long that's been, we have to be very careful. We can't just immediately rush in and give them fluids to drop those sodium levels too quickly. We have to be very cautious, and so we can cause damage the other way. We can get brain edema from that. So
So the beach, it's fun. Maybe be very cautious with our canine friends.
Yeah. You just have to be careful, and if your dog is prone to eating things, maybe that's a time to give them one of those basket muzzles so they can go enjoy the beach and not swallow things. Yeah. Or eat. I mean, I guess they can still eat.
And the transmitting to people things, too, because I feel like a lot of the times people would have those beach limits just because they didn't want dogs and to mainly leave the mess. And now when you actually hear of somebody, getting hookworms because of it, it's...
Because you can't control what other people do. I don't know if that person with that little chihuahua on the next blanket over, it's an adorable little dog. Do they do parasite control on that dog?
Right.
Do they care if that dog comes up? They think it's so cute when the dog comes up and licks me. Well, I think it's cute because I'm a vet.
Right.
My husband doesn't want a dog slobbering on him.
Right.
And, not every dog is as well-mannered as you would like. So that's why a lot of these beaches don't allow people and animals to mix as much.
And that's an important plug for your heartworm preventative, too, because a lot of your heartworm preventative has hookworm preventatives in it. So
it does.
So make sure you guys are doing your heartworm preventatives.
So that's kind of my beach.
I like the beach safety. The other thing I actually just thought of as we're sitting here is sunscreen. Because I do get a lot of clients asking me, should I be putting sunscreen on my dogs? And you really don't need to. Especially a dog that's normal pigment. If you have a white cat or really
the ears
or the tip of the ears are really more exposed, then in those cases, sometimes you can put a child-proof or child-safe sunscreen on those dogs.
I'm just imagining those dogs with the bare bellies that just
they would probably get sunburned. They rolled over. They probably
so spray
get sunburned.
sunscreens might be a good idea for those dogs.
But
I never see dogs for sunscreen.
No. I mean, theoretically, you think that they could get it, but really, they just don't.
Yeah,
they just don't.
The hair does provide some protection. Just you don't get
it right on your scalp.
You get it on the part.
Yep, you never get it on your head. You don't sunscreen your whole head. Well, my husband now gets it on his head because he's bald. But he's since started shaving.
Is he watching?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. Okay. All right.
He's at work.
Good. That's good. Will he listen later?
Hopefully not now. We might miss this episode. No.
And then heat stroke is one. It's not beach specific. But I was sitting on the beach. It was 90 degrees, 95.
Yep.
Humid.
Did it feel cooler on the beach?
No,
Not even.
It did not, but I did go in the water.
Yeah.
And drank a lot of salt water, and I was okay. But, dogs, again, they need evaporative cooling. You can cover them. You can put water on them if they were too hot, but you do have to be conscious of that because they're not going to necessarily think about it. And they're laying on the sand, which is also hot.
Yeah, making sure they have some sort of protection, like a sun umbrella
they have these
or
awesome
something like that.
Tents now.
I know. I got a tent too. I had a tent this summer. It's glorious.
So the dog can go in the tent.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. Any questions about beach safety?
Let's see. Let's check our Facebook board.
No, we have no questions about that. That's
good.
fine. That's good. We covered it.
I think it was good. Yeah.
So then topic 2 was when you think your vet maybe made a mistake.
Yeah, and this is kind of a serious topic because, we are humans, right? So veterinarians, just like human doctors, we are humans, human beings. There can be sometimes mistakes that are made. And sometimes these mistakes can be genuine. Other times they can be more perceived mistakes. And so, I think talking about how you as a client handles a situation like that is really important because it is something that will come up, and hopefully it won't ever come up for you, or but it can. And so, how you handle it, I think, makes all the world a difference. And you actually put it very eloquently before about figuring out like why you are upset kind of thing, trying to guide the clients on why they're upset.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's kind of the key thing that I run into a lot of the time. Lindsay and I both are managers in this hospital. And so we do handle some degree of those client concerns,
right,
especially when they're medically oriented. And I often have to spend a lot of time talking with clients just to get to the root of what their exact, like, what are they upset about so that I can fix it, because I do want to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's something that, like, once you can, there may be a lot of anger or you're upset or whatever when something you think hasn't gone right. And I just do feel like taking a little bit of a step back, that concern will still be there tomorrow when you can cool your head a little bit and you can think about what really happened. But it is pretty important that you try to figure out why you're upset.
Yeah.
What happened that set you off. And then the next sort of thing to go from that is what do you think the harm was? Was it that you did extra diagnostic testing that you had to pay for, and so it's financial? Is it, God forbid, your animal died? Is it just that you were, like, offended? Those are things to sort out in your head so that you know what you think the right response is from the hospital.
Right. And then I think those are all amazing points. And I think, finding out if you feel as though a mistake or an error or something happened, I think it's really very important to kind of go to that vet that you saw initially, that you had the initial interaction with, and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I didn't think that we needed to run this one test. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering why we did. I'm just wondering why we ran this test, because there actually might be a really good reason of why the vet recommended to have that test run. Or, I wondered, why did you send me home with this medication that was expensive? I don't think that this medication is the one that made the difference when I go and look up online. I think it's, an unnecessary medication. And like I said, there may be a reason why. So a lot of times, though, the anger builds, and it's honestly a lot of times unjustified, because there are lots of valid reasons why certain things were done in a certain order or a certain way. But if it's not, if the vet did make a genuine mistake, they may very well take a step back at that moment, in that very first interaction, and say, you know what?
You're right.
You're right. We probably don't need to do this med anymore. I was thinking this, but you know what? At the end of the day, when all this stuff is done, now I have all my results here. You know what? We don't need that medication. You're right. Let me refund you that money for that medication. So, taking that step back, figuring out what you're concerned about, and coming to us sort of in an appropriate manner, I think is really important. Right. And if you don't get the results that you want from the vet that you saw, a lot of times these practices have either managers, I'm the assistant medical director here, Chris is the medical director here. A lot of practices have practice owners or some sort of medical director.
Hospital manager.
Yeah, or hospital manager. It's not even a veterinarian per se, but somebody else that you can kind of go to as the next tier to kind of say, I spoke to Dr. So-and-so, and these are my concerns, and this is what, came from it. I'm not satisfied. I don't feel okay about it still. I need you to kind of help me work through that.
Yeah. And those kinds of complaints or concerns always get a better result, because in any interaction, what we would really like is to have two calm, adults in the room that can have a rational discussion and can really sort through it and figure out who's right and who's wrong. When one member is defensive or upset, sometimes you can still salvage that, but if you're counting on the vet to be the one that's rational and calm, and you're irate and upset. It's just, what if the vet isn't? What if the vet does get defensive or feels like you're attacking them? You have to come into these things with some measure of, this is what I think happened. Can you just talk me through it to start with?
And I think it's always emotional. I mean, we're dealing with, I think people can get emotional for anything. I mean, sometimes you get upset if your car's, transmission goes. But I think that we're dealing with people's pets. These are people's family members. So there's always that emotional attachment that's very high in a lot of these cases. But I think that one thing that's really, important is that even if you have that really super high emotional intensity, is, figuring out those things before you sort of go and try to address it, as opposed to going on to social media. I mean, we're on social media now.
Social media.
And this is like great. This is an awesome resource that we have. And we love doing these podcasts because it's super cool. And you guys can write in questions and we're able to kind of go over various topics online, and it's fun to do. But sometimes social media can be really damaging. I mean, sometimes you can take, somebody and just tear them apart online. And, these are vets that care significantly about you. I mean, we spent years, going to school to learn about, about medicine, to treat your pets. And so these are people that have dedicated their lives to veterinary medicine. And so going online and just ripping them apart, I mean, what is that going to really do,
Yeah. And, just to put a point on, what happens when you place an online review that's just, vicious or even just a negative online review. If that is your first point of contact with us, so you have not reached out to the doctor that you saw or a hospital manager at that business, you haven't done any of those things. All you do is you go home and in a fit of rage, you submit an online review. We, on our side, are going to try our best to figure out what happened. So we don't want you to feel that way.
Right.
We want to try to resolve it. On some sites, they're anonymous, or you can just sign up and, create some account. We can never figure out who you are. You're not going to get any satisfaction other than voicing your concerns on this site. So great. So you're trying to destroy that person's business. Fine. I get it. You're upset. But that isn't going to get you any real resolution, which might be you want some money back. And we would maybe like to give you some money back. We don't know.
Yeah. That goes back to the first point of even figuring out, going to that vet, figuring out why you're upset, and then talking to them. Because there very well could be a complete rational reason why a test was run or medication was given or whatever the reason is. And that it all makes sense. And you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. So I'm not angry anymore.
Right.
So I think just this going at it about it in a systematic way that actually is going to be productive, I think, is important.
And then on some sites like Facebook or Google, they're not anonymous. And so we actually can look and see who it was. And often we will try to contact you.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can resolve those things. I would also say, if you talk to your vet and think, wow, they actually reached out to me and they helped in this situation, look at modifying your review. I'm not saying to change the stars or whatever, but maybe post an update that says they called me and they were really great, and I feel like while this one incident still I don't think it was handled well, they made it right. That I almost never see that happen, and I don't ask for it because I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for me to say, now can you go on and modify your review, but it wouldn't be bad.
But I do know, just again, going on the positive of social media, I mean, one of the great things about it is that I've been able to stay in touch with so many of my classmates and so many of their clinics. And, there's also this a giant resource of other vets that are online that have social groups. And it is a really big issue in veterinary medicine where people do have issues or complaints and they just go to social media. And it's not just for our hospital, but it literally is for
it's bullying. I mean, they're actually, to make this really, I'm going to take you down.
Oh, here we go.
There have been vets that have committed suicide over this.
There is. It's true, though. It's a very sad fact.
So they've been bullied by people that they did not know. And, I'm sure that they had some issues of their own and depression and things like that. But, we don't need to take it to that level.
No, we don't. But, I mean, it's an important concern. No, but, I mean, it's an important concern that it's you talk about veterinarians, and in general, as a group of people, we're very empathetic people. We care a lot. We don't go into this because we don't care. That'd be really silly to dedicate that much time and energy. And so, we don't want to feel as though you think that we hate you or hate your animals or whatever.
Yeah, whether it's appropriate or not, we actually care what you think.
Yeah, we do.
About us.
Try to resolve these things in a positive way.
And then, another, information for you about, okay, you went those routes, you talked to the vet, you didn't feel satisfied, you talked to the office manager or whatever, you don't feel satisfied. There are other ways to go beyond that. I just want to kind of give you a note of caution about what happens when you go those routes. So there's two ways. There's, you can sue. So we're a very litigious society, and a lot of people threaten to sue.
Oh, yeah.
Not that many people actually do. So when you are going to do a lawsuit, most of the time recognize that your actual damages are going to be very limited. So it's going to be limited to the value of the pet and or any financial outlay that you actually made. So it might be the medical care.
Right.
It might be, the $1,000 that you spent or the $5,000 that you spent. That's it. You're not going to get emotional damages, at least at this point. You're very rarely going to get, I've seen, requests for claims that are like $60,000 for damages to the house.
No.
They just are not going to award you that sort of thing. Also, people threaten to sue with the intent of, I'm going to hurt this person, right? I'm going to
take away their ability to practice medicine.
So I have insurance, and my insurance company is going to cover those losses for me. So it's going to be emotionally stressful for me to go through a lawsuit. Yes, for you as well as a client, it is. You might get, some money back from this kind of thing, but you're not going to, if you want to inflict financial harm upon somebody, a lawsuit may not necessarily be the way to go. Really, I just would encourage you not to try to inflict harm upon somebody, obviously.
It's probably best.
It's probably best that we all do it in a nicer way. But, a lawsuit is something that we deal with rarely. We usually try to get these things resolved without having to go to that extent. And then the last thing that's available is the veterinary board, which is it's fearful for all veterinarians.
Well, yeah, the veterinary board is a big,
Right. But the reason that it's fearful is that if you don't have a license, you can't be a vet. And that's how I feed my family.
Yeah, right.
So, but I'll also say that submitting a complaint to the veterinary board is not going to be that satisfying for an owner. I think.
I mean, I think honestly, a lot of the times, if owners are upset, they really truly going all of those routes, especially like the legal routes or the veterinary board routes. It's just this long pathway that, in the end, you're not getting vets out there that are maliciously hurting and doing these things. And so, I mean, if you had a vet that significantly was physically abusing animals or doing experiments on animals, those are the vets that need to probably go to the board. Well, they should. It should go to the board.
Yeah.
A vet that, you see on an emergency that your dog gets hit by a car and it ends up dying, and those are not cases to be taking to the board because.
So the board will evaluate a situation and look for actual medical malpractice, and they're going to look and see if they feel like the legal communication was appropriate, that you ultimately understood what you were embarking upon, that you have the appropriate informed consent. They're going to look at those things.
Right.
But, that's going to be kind of it. There's not a ton of times where genuinely it really is often not a medical mistake. It is often a communication mistake.
Communication error.
And so those are always going to be the kinds of things that's better to address. Again, we keep saying this in person with the person or over the telephone. So so that's that.
That's that.
Do we have any questions about that?
I don't know. We got a comment.
We got a comment. Okay. So the last little short topic maybe
is interesting.
So
actually,
I educated Lindsay about this morning.
Honestly, I'd heard maybe a little bit of rumbles, but this morning, Chris had said about this grain-free link and the FDA's new, claim that, we're dealing with pets that are developing some very odd heart conditions, DCM or dilated cardiomyopathy. So, a lot of people, in the community, were really in tune with pet foods and what's the best pet food for my animal. And I think grain-free is a really hot, food right now. When I'm feeding my pet grain-free, they think they're doing a really, really good job. Well, the FDA just put out a potential link with, the
FDA is simply alerting people and looking into,
because I guess there have been a few cases that owners that have been feeding their pets these grain-free diets for either weeks to months, I was reading up, or even years in some cases, are developing this heart condition, this DCM.
Yeah. So I did speak with a cardiologist about this yesterday. I did my research.
I know.
So, the issue there is that a lot of this we just don't know. So we are not advising that everyone goes out and switches their dog immediately. Or cat.
No.
But these issues have not been noted in cats, just dogs. What the issue is that a handful of dogs have developed a condition called DCM, dilated cardiomyopathy. Now, dogs can develop that.
Yep.
There are breeds that are known.
Doberman Pinschers.
Doberman Pinschers.
Yep.
But they're atypical breeds. They're breeds that never would have developed this kind of thing before, and all of a sudden, this dog has DCM.
Which is weird, right?
Weird.
Yeah.
And there are a few known conditions, nutritional things that will cause that. So it's like taurine and carnitine.
Yeah, carnitine.
So a lot of the time when an atypical dog develops this, they will put them on those to see if it causes resolution.
Yeah.
So the only link that they could find with this handful of atypical breeds was that all of the dogs were on a grain-free, and they do list specific ingredients like lentils or chickpeas or something that's a little weird, or a sort of boutique-y food that's not one of the mainstream pet foods.
And they wouldn't, from my research, again, very brief research before we went
5
online,
minutes.
they wouldn't find, 5 minutes, literally quick research, they didn't find any specific foods, or they weren't willing to offer these specific brands.
Right.
So if you call up your vet, they're not going to know, oh yeah, it's linked to this brand or this brand of food.
Because it really was such a smattering that each dog was on a different brand.
Right.
Or a different ingredient. And why might that happen? Well, maybe there's a link between some genetic component and some ingredient that prevents them from being able to absorb certain amino acids or the building blocks for those things, or maybe those particular animals just genuinely couldn't synthesize the things, and maybe it has nothing to do with it, but grain-free diets are so common.
Yes.
So it's a hard thing to say that there's a definitive link. Even when there is a definitive link, the cardiologist was saying, well, we know this about cats with taurine deficiency.
Yeah.
Taurine is an amino acid that cats can't make, so they have to eat. And so when they're deficient in that, if you fed your cat only tuna fish, it has a risk of developing it, but it's not guaranteed either.
Guaranteed, yeah.
So, with this only being a handful, this is another situation where it's great that the media has sort of alerted people to it. I think that getting those conversations out are really great, but I don't know that it's not necessarily an epidemic problem that we're seeing right now. I have not seen any cases of this.
And neither have I. And I feel like right now they're just sort of trying to gather more information and data. So if you have a pet that's on one of these diets and heaven forbid it develops some sort of weird heart condition or this DCM, having that or bringing that up to your vet might be an interesting thing.
And they'll ask about diet, right?
Yeah.
But not all vets know. You didn't know.
I actually didn't know until right now today.
And I think it goes back to, so like in some of our previous podcasts, we've talked about grain-free, we've talked about dog food labels and that. And it's just another reminder that, any food could have a beautiful label and the appropriate nutrients, what looks great, but they haven't necessarily researched that food raises healthy animals.
Right.
So I'm not in the pocket of big food companies. I just think that some food companies have invested millions of dollars in their diets, and they've, proven that their diets raise healthy dogs through feeding trials.
They have veterinarians on staff. The boutique brand foods, it's not that they're bad.
Some of them are good.
And some of them are great. And so we're not trying to...
But we just don't know which ones are good.
That's the key.
All right.
Let's take a look. Ooh.
We have some questions here.
Oh, there's one of my clients. I can barely read it.
It says, so what do we need to look out for if our dog is on a grain-free diet? So the biggest thing, if you were worried that your dog might be developing heart disease,
are going to be clinical signs of it, because it's going to be really hard to tell before they develop those clinical signs if they're going to be predisposed to it, because we don't have any tests for it now.
Right.
So you're looking at things like lethargy, coughing,
maybe
exercise intolerance. Would be
sometimes, with that sort of a condition, you might actually see you might see fluid accumulate. Like you can see the belly looking a little fluidy.
You could see as it progresses.
Maybe.
As it progresses.
But usually you're going to note those things. You're going to notice that they used to be able to run up the stairs and now they kind of huff and puff. I do caution you, please don't be that worried about this. So we're
not trying to make everybody crazy about it, but it's just interesting.
Because it's the odds of it happening. There are 60 million dogs in the country,
right?
And probably more than half of them are on grain-free diets. And this has been seen in. Did you see numbers?
So it literally didn't see numbers. It didn't give me numbers, but it had maybe 5 different types of breeds, and then it said a few other mixed. So we're talking about 5 dogs with a couple other mixed.
So it could be at most 24 dogs,
right,
out of 60 million. So, and then there's another question: is there a benefit of feeding my dog a grain-free diet? So that's actually, there actually isn't. So I know. It flies in the face of everything that you've been told. what is grain?
Carbs. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No,
so I thought you were going up. Sorry. I was zoning up.
Oh.
Zoning up. Yeah. So it's really funny. I mean, people get so amped up about these grain-free diets.
Right.
And I think a lot of it probably stems from like celiac disease and gluten-free diets and people being more aware of
low carb diets
and low carb. So just being more aware now of our nutrition and that there are other diseases in humans that people are then saying, maybe in dogs we should be doing grain-free. Maybe in dogs we should be doing something specific like gluten-free, all that stuff. And in reality, there really isn't. There are reasons. There are valid reasons of having your dog on specific diets because there's a variety of prescription-based diets out there, from anything from helping with urinary stone formations to heart-friendly diets. And there are certain diets that are protein-based diets that are really important to maybe switch off of if you're worried your dog might have a food allergy. But grain-free diet benefit.
Right. So, I mean, this is the trouble, is that so much of what we are very sure is right in even human nutrition. There are people that will swear that one diet is better than another diet for these reasons, and they're mostly not based in anything scientific. And so then a lot of that gets extrapolated out now to veterinary, which is even less based in any science. Right. So there's nothing inherently better about a lentil than a grain of rice. Dogs in the wild will eat carbs. They go mow down some, fields of grass. They eat the contents of the animals' intestines. I don't mean dogs in the wild. I guess I mean wolves.
Wolves, yeah. They're descendants. Yeah.
Right. But dogs do need carbs. It's a macronutrient. Yep. And grain-free does not mean carbohydrate-free. So that means absolutely nothing. So I think it's what your dog does well on.
Because some dogs, honestly, people will say, I think their stools are better on this particular diet and it happens to be grain-free. Fine. I'm fine with that, But there's really no strong medical reason that we're going to be saying your dog should be on a grain-free diet. It has to be on a grain-free diet. So, yeah.
So that's that. So let's see if there's any other questions here. So what should we look for?
I can't really read it. I'm going to have you read it because it's bright.
So what should we look for in a food to make sure the food is high quality? So we actually do have a previous podcast about that, but in general, you're not looking at the flashy front of the bag. You're not looking at all the claims that they're making, which are not based in anything. You're not looking at the word natural. You can look at the word organic if it has the USDA organic stamp on it. That is the only official designation. They do have requirements for that. Most foods are not organic. So you can look at the nutritional guaranteed analysis on the back. Yep. Make sure that it says this food has been formulated to meet AAFCO nutritional guidelines.
The AAFCO is important, yeah.
Ideally, that food would say this food has undergone feeding trials of AAFCO. I don't know the exact wording of that.
I think they do put on their trials. I'm just trying to think of the actual wording.
It says feeding trials. You're only going to find some big manufacturers.
And I do think there's a push. Again, it's this big push against buying some larger companies' food because they think as though maybe those companies aren't the best. And
it's the man.
Yeah, right? Right?
Fight
That's what it is.
The man.
Fighting against the man.
When you look at, I'm going to say, like Purina, I have clients that come in and say, oh, Purina's bad. But Purina, they did a multi-million-dollar study where they took puppies from puppyhood and raised them all the way until they died. They were in families, but they were checking blood work all the time, fed Purina foods. They were doing it's called a lifetime study. That has value. That gave us tremendous value in the field. And we know that those Purina foods that those dogs were fed, those labs lived long and healthy lives. Yeah. They showed a lot of data about obesity. It was a really great study. Well, the smaller companies haven't done that. The smaller companies could be some dude in his basement making a pretty label and then sending the formula to a food manufacturing plant and having it produced. I'm not saying it's that unregulated, but it can be. And I think it is hard. I feel that a quality food is one that's backed by a major manufacturer.
And I honestly feel the same way. I feed my dog Purina. I feel like I recommend it to a lot of clients, but I know that there are a lot of clients out there that want sort of those unique, smaller brand foods for a variety of different reasons. And you know what? I mean, it is, it's your choice as the owner to do what you feel is best for your pet. But I do like Purina. And, we actually got from our production crew, a question about, what about, taking advice from pet store employees? That's great. I mean, a lot of times when we as vets are seeing clients coming in with their dogs and they're saying, well, this, I went to this pet store and they said, this is the food for my dog that has allergies. It's like, okay, well, that's great. And I'm glad that you're going and you're being proactive and trying to find a food because we're worried about your dog having food allergies. But I'm going to let you know these are the foods that I would probably recommend. If we're really trying to do a really good food trial, these would be the foods that I would sort of stick with, if we're concerned about food allergies in your dog, which is a legitimate thing. So, there are some medical conditions, like Krista was saying, that people are just saying, oh, grain-free, this dog has to be on grain-free. Well, that's not the case. If you're doing a food trial for food allergy purposes, those diets aren't necessarily going to be the best for your pet.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a wide variety of knowledge from pet store employees.
Totally.
Some of them are really very knowledgeable. Some of them may have been previously veterinary technicians or receptionists. Sorry, my personal phone is ringing.
This is why I like Facebook Live.
Just... Yeah.
Is it your husband?
No, he doesn't call me.
Oh,
it was probably spam.
Yeah, but I mean,
so
you're right.
They also may have just had some food manufacturer come in and give them a seminar about their food.
Right.
And that's the only one they know about.
Right.
That happened. There was one manufacturer that I was like going to every Petco, and the employees were like, have you fed your dog this food? You should try it.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, why are you all promoting this so much? And they just had a big seminar.
I do. I think, again, it goes back to when we were talking about breeders, our last, podcast is, some breeders have really, really good advice and other breeders might have advice that we would differ in the veterinary community. So just make sure that you're reaching out to
your vet, and your vet can provide you advice and at least can say, yeah, that's fine. I have no concerns about that diet. So.
Right.
So I think we are at the end.
That's it for episode 2.
Episode 2.
I liked it. Krista's mic didn't fall this time.
My mic, and I hope that you could all hear me. I think they could.
Yeah, we didn't get any complaints this time.
So we will be wrapping up, and we are sponsored by Ethos Veterinary Health, so thank you. And this is Krista Vernolican.
Lindsay Vernzullo, please join us next time, Facebook Live.